Friend of the show and Brazilian Felipe Reis Aceti joins us to discuss the Packers' preseason games and to fill us in on some excitement heading into Brazil surrounding the upcoming season opener versus the Eagles.
Yeah, I've been wanting this shit forever. I've been in the field with whatever they throw at me. Brush it off, pick myself up, moving on to the better. Okay. Hey. Yeah. Ain't no errors, baby. It's a new era. I wake up early feeling rich like I'm cash.
Welcome in another episode. Sounds good. We appreciate everybody coming back to listen to us. I am one of your two co-hosts. My name is Rob Ralph. Next to me is my best friend, Jordan Olson. We have our friend, Felipe Reis Aceti, joining us for this episode to talk a little bit about some stuff for this upcoming year. Obviously, Eagles, Packers down there in Brazil, talking some preseason stuff, as well as maybe some roster stuff and other sorts of questions as well. Just know that we do have new content come out every Thursday on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts as well. So, Felipe, dude, welcome. So good to see you again, as always. We had a preseason game last night. What are your overall reactions from yesterday and from the preseason in general?
First, I appreciate you guys for having me back. I think I wasn't here in June. I'm not certain. But
yeah.
I appreciate being back. I said it when we ended the first episode. Like I would like to be back. And here we are. Going back to yesterday's game. I think the best part for me was when it ended. Because oh my god. I know it's preseason. We shouldn't take it seriously, and I don't. But that was just some bad football, and I know you guys are going to probably talk about this. I think the next episode, but I want to see Michael Pratt more against Baltimore. I know we have a joint practice with the Ravens on Thursday. I think Thursday.
I think so.
Yeah. I think Thursday, yeah.
And I feel like that mostly be the reps for the starters in the week. Pretty much was like with Denver. So that would leave a lot more of Michael Pratt and Clifford against the Ravens on Saturday. But I want to see Pratt. We already know what Clifford is. Come on. He was expected to be undrafted in 2023. And I want to see more of Pratt. I want to see if the Packers can pull what they did with Matt Flynn in 2012. And I think he went to sign up the Seahawks for like $20 million in free agency. So we need to develop him. Michael Pratt, most people thought we got a steal because he was expected to go earlier. It was 7th-round pick.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's you make some interesting points there. I mean, to me, Clifford really disappointed last night, and I know that he's been throwing a lot of turnovers and interceptions throughout the preseason. So maybe he just is coming back to what the general consensus thought about Clifford, and that he should be a 7th-round player or an undrafted player. Maybe he, outkicked his coverage, so to say, last year. But yeah, Michael Pratt was projected to be like a 3rd or 4th rounder at one point in time. I mean, you could see the lasers he was throwing last night. He has the arm talent. He just kind of needs to get settled in, but really not a good performance from either quarterback last night. It left me with a lot to be desired. And I think the Packers have some serious questions to be answered about who's going to be, the backup quarterback going into week 1.
Yeah. And I mean, against Cleveland, I think Pratt had 7 attempts. All game he played like, I think half of the 4th quarter. I don't remember how much. And he played 2 full quarters against Denver. I want to see him play at least 3 quarters against Baltimore because Clifford is gonna get reps. That's how it just is gonna go down. But how much for me is going to be interesting to see, because I think at a point against Denver, LaFleur simply got I'm done, and he put in Pratt like 30 seconds left in the first half or something.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see. I'm really intrigued because I think AJ Dillon not playing that pretty much tells us all we need to know about his job security, and he's gonna make it.
He's locked in
He,
for that one of those
when,
spots. Yeah.
yeah, um, the Packers really value him as a pass protector, and it makes sense because when your quarterback is making 55 million a year, you get every protection that you can for him. So it makes sense. I do find it funny because I saw a clip today from the Denver broadcasting team mentioning AJ Dillon, and the quote was as it follows: "AJ Dillon is a great back. He can get you 2 yards every time." The second I read that, I thought to myself, is he describing a running back or a fullback? I even said it. I got this from Cheeseheads Brazil, and I literally wrote this on their Twitter because that to me that is describing a fullback. And I even suggested this last night. Like if they want to keep Emmanuel Wilson, who is having a nice preseason, they're gonna keep Marshall Lloyd. They can simply put Dillon in the hybrid fullback role and keep three running backs. But I don't know. I don't know if there's gonna be a roster spot available because they also might have to keep seven receivers. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's the core four like Weeks, Watson, Dobbs. Bo Melton most likely will make it, although he's not having a very good preseason. I think Heath will make it too, or do both makes it and Heath goes to the practice squad. But I'm not sure if
Mm-hmm.
Wilkins wants to risk him going on to another team, signing for another team. So there's going to be some interesting topics in about in a week or so when the 53 gets done.
I think a week or two ago we were worried about how would we maybe protect these quarterbacks, like how do we sneak Michael Pratt in, and right now I don't think that's going to be a problem. I think they're going to be able to pick who's number 2, roster him, and put the other one on the practice squad with
Yeah,
little thought. You might from that perspective just want to stick Pratt on there because he is the guy that has the reputation for the higher upside, and I don't think anybody's going to get too serious about Sean Clifford unless, somebody like the quarterback needy Minnesota Vikings, who always scrapes up our scraps, would take a chance on him. That would be a classic Vikings move. But
Yes, it would.
yeah. And I mean, I think with the new emergency quarterback rule, it makes it even more viable for the Packers to keep just two QBs. I think they last kept three QBs in 2020 with Rogers, Love, and Tim Boyle. I think in 2020.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, because Tim
So
Boyle was ahead of Love in the depth chart, I believe.
yeah,
Yeah.
so they will not keep two quarterbacks. I think they'll most likely put Clifford on the practice squad, and no one's gonna get Clifford on the practice squad.
Mm-hmm.
So, or maybe they. I don't think they will put Pratt because I think Pratt will get claimed by someone. So I will not risk that. But Jordan was talking. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he started talking about protection, and the first thing that came to and I still ask myself every day, not to hate on the guy, nothing personal against the guy, but I'm not sure how Royce Newman has a roster spot yet.
Yeah. Jordan's favorite player, public enemy number 1.
I think they're trying to give him every opportunity to keep a job. And I think right now, if you look at what was presented in last night's game, and I know Rob has some questions about, how much to read into, a preseason game and some of that. But like the backup tackles look a little rough right now, right? I think we have great interior backup offensive linemen from what I can see. Sean Ryan is looking like a people mover.
Ryan Monk.
Jacob Monk is looking like he's a hit. And you like your backup options along the interior. Um, you know, Andre Dillard looks like he's maybe, somewhat capable. Telfort had his hot streak. Now it looks like he's struggling a little bit. Caleb Jones. I'm not sure. I think they got some decisions to make along the line. But back to my point, I think they're trying to give Royce Newman, a player who has starting experience in this league, an opportunity to make it on a cheap contract. But I still don't see it from him.
But I mean, Newman has been on the league since 2021 or 2020. But you already have a clear understanding of what he is at this point. And the Packers got stuff on fourth and short 3 times yesterday. I remember one of them, like the entire O line got pushed for. I don't think it was Emmanuel Wilson. It was another back, and he was the only one that got pushed back. And I remember the back running straight at the A gap between the right guard and the center, so to the right. And they got stuff pretty much on that play. And he also played all the offensive snaps yesterday, Royce Newman, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just, I think I have seen him.
So I made a note yesterday too, and they were switching Newman with Monk, and then they switched Monk to the other side and put Newman on that side. And you could immediately tell whenever they were running the ball towards Monk's side, they immediately got better. Like they ran it for a couple of yards. Yeah, they ran it to Newman's side right, and it kept getting pushed back, and then they moved to the other side. Same thing happened last night. So right on to your point. But I mean, they restructured his contract, right? Like I don't know how he makes it. I'd be shocked if he did, right?
And I mean, you mentioned the restructure. If they did this, whenever I'm not an advocate for people losing jobs, because there's the human side to it. But
Agreed.
if they restructure Newman's contract or even let him go back in March, we could have a running back room of Aaron Jones and Josh Jacobs right now. The difference between what the Packers offer Aaron Jones and what Jones actually wanted, it's what Newman's salary.
Yeah, really good point.
That's a pretty clear choice. I hope Marshawn Lloyd pans out because it looks really promising. It looked pretty promising before the hamstring injury again in week 1. But I mean, the AFC is pretty much in a better place than the NFC. So if the Packers want to make a run in the NFC, now's the time, because the 49ers, who knows what's going to happen with Brandon Ayuk. I don't trust the Eagles, not one bit. The Cowboys, we're in the 21st century, and what other team? The Lions, but I'll believe it when I see it. So what other team do you feel like the NFC South as a whole? Meh.
It's a coin flip. The Falcons are trying to make a real run at it. They've made some moves over the last couple weeks that give you, an idea, some hope that the Falcons are going to try to be a real contender out of the South. If Kirk Cousins is healthy, looking like he has in the past couple seasons, they could be formidable. But yeah, I'm with you, Felipe. I'll believe that the South has a strong contender when we see it happen for 8 to 10 weeks, and then let's gear up for the playoffs.
And I mean, the thing with the Falcons, because they announced that Michael Penix Jr. will not play in week 3, and that makes 0 sense because he's not gonna start anyway. He might not start for a couple of years. Why is he not playing next week? And the first thing that I thought was, maybe the Falcons are not sure Kirk Cousins is 100% yet, which makes sense. Which could make sense because he tore his Achilles like late October, early November against the Packers, and he's 36, soon to be 37, I believe. So that can be an injury that it might be take a little longer than expected to come back from, and he's not really a guy that gets injured. I remember reading a stat that he was never once in the injury report for the Vikings. So
Wow.
That's pretty wild.
uh, I'm not sure on this, but I think it's something like this. So the only thing that we thought was maybe the Falcons don't think he's there yet. But I mean, just like I said, the time to make a run is now. And I truly hope that Brandon Ayuk gets traded. Although I don't think it's going to happen because he's the guy that gets open for Purdy. So if he goes, who's going to be that wide receiver one? And I even mentioned on our episode together, our first episode, because the 49ers were more inclined to trade Debo Samuel than Brandon Ayuk because it's quite obvious that Ayuk's the guy that gets open when the going gets tough. Debo's a good receiver, but he's not as polished as a route runner as Ayuk. But I'll stop talking now because we're here talking about the Packers.
No, well, no, it's good conversation. I mean, I do think that the Atlanta Falcons are going to take a rebound this year. This is me betting on Kirk Cousins going back to form. So, if he's injured or not all the way 100%, that could definitely be the other way around. But they have a really good offense, great running back, probably one of the top 10 offensive lines, if not top 5. Drake London, right? Competent pieces on defense. They got Judon now, and they signed Justin Simmons to a 1-year, $8 million deal. So, no one loves the 49ers downfall more than me. Jordan probably too, right? Just let it all crumble down and fall. Ayuk wants the bag and the money, and San Francisco can't do it because they need to pay people, right? And then you got Trent Williams too, who's wanting to up his current contract stuff as well. So it sounds like I just read an article too. It's a hold up on Pittsburgh giving them a player back or not too. So we'll see. Yeah, I do think that it'll probably end up coming down to the Lions this year too. I think that they're going to be really, really good and one of the juggernauts. I think the Bears will end up playing really well. But going back to preseason, I kind of wanted to just gather your thoughts just a little bit too on this. What do you think that preseason, like, how much weight and effort do you put into preseason as far as like, okay, so like Packers played their backups last night against the Denver starters. Do you wish that someone or 2 or 3 would have showed out more than maybe Daniel Whelan or the Packers?
I mean, I can't ask much of the receivers because yesterday was clearly a quarterback play issue from both Clifford and Pratt. So I saw people saying that Dubose didn't have a good night, but the Packers throughout the third quarter were averaging 3 yards per pass. So how do you expect your receivers to like shine and stand out when your quarterback play has been abysmal?
Yeah.
And I'm talking about the offense part. I particularly remembering Travis Glover struggling badly at right tackle. Badly. And I think he's more of an inside guy. I'm not sure on this, but I'm concerned about our depth because if Rashid Walker or Zach Tom goes down, especially Zach Tom, we're screwed. It is over. To recall the meme of The Office.
Yes.
I think that's one of the things, though, and I know people are pretty set on it. We've talked about this show that we like Jordan Morgan at right guard, but like our swing tackle emergency plan might be Jordan Morgan. And, with what we've seen out of Sean Ryan and Jacob Monk, I mean, that may be the direction we head, and we may not feel that bad about it. I think they're trying to get Morgan settled in at guard because that's his best spot to make an impact for 17 weeks if everybody's healthy. But, once he establishes himself as an NFL player, I would be okay with giving him a chance to kick outside and give those other guys a shot on the interior.
That seems like more and more like the possibility.
And I think about it because if you're LaFleur, Jordan mentioned the swing tackle problem. You have to think what is harder to game plan for if you're an offense. You have to game plan around having a weak spot on right guard, or maybe if your left tackle if Walker goes down, Tom goes down, or is it even harder to play without a starting tackle because I think Walker was Trent Williams aside, he was the best left tackle in football last year in pass block win rates, and Zach
Yeah.
Tom, is a monster. I don't need to go any further than that. So it's evaluation if it's harder to play without a right guard or a tackle. And I was talking with a friend about this because I also don't like Josh Myers. I'm not a fan of Myers. So if something happens to him, I think the best move is to move Elton Jenkins to center. And I've seen people talking about Zach Tom or even I thought this was crazy, but even moving Jordan Morgan to center, to me that there's no chance that happens. No way.
Yeah, I don't think so.
So it's a matter of game plan. What you believe it's you can overcome. It's easy to overcome. Lack of right guard play, tackle.
So go back and watch the tape from the last two preseason games. One combination that I'm very intrigued about, and they've been moving Ryan and Monk around, but when they've played Sean Ryan at center and played Jacob Monk at guard, they've actually been extremely productive in the run game. I'm intrigued by that combination because maybe in that situation, if Jordan Morgan is comfortable with Sean Ryan under center, or at center, maybe that's a possibility that could work out. I'm with you. I don't think there's any world where Jordan Morgan becomes our center, in the foreseeable future. But yeah, Elton Jenkins moving in, and then Sean Ryan playing guard is also a possibility. So interesting takes there on the offensive line, and a lot to figure out in the next 10-15 days here. So
And I mean, if and I even wrote about. I think if Sean Ryan's gonna get immediate play time, it's probably going to be at center because before Morgan got injured, he was really solidifying himself as the right guard, starting right guard. We have our starting tackles. We have Elton Jenkins at left guard, but I think the Packers trust Myers, but I think he has the more to lose this season. It's the last year of his rookie deal,
Yep.
and he's been like he finished 2023 on a high note, but he's been really inconsistent. So if
Yeah.
to get playing time, I think it happens at center. I don't know if he can play center. Some people suggested him as a swing tackle. I'm not sure he can play tackle either. But if he gets playing time, I feel like it's center. Other than that, and he needs to because last 2025 is the last year of his rookie deal. So we're going to the last year without knowing what he is. Like we don't even have a clue. At least we could
Yeah.
know if he's bad, but we don't know we don't know that either. So it's it's a situation to say the least.
So we'll wrap up here with yesterday's preseason game. Then let's look forward to week one in Brazil a little bit. But we've already picked on Royce Newman enough on this show, so I'm going to exclude him from this list because that's low hanging fruit. But Felipe, which Packers player do you think played themselves either onto the roster in yesterday's performance? That was my original question, but it was kind of a shitburger. So, I mean, maybe reverse of that. Is there a player that played themselves off of the roster in yesterday's performance? And Rob, I want your take too,
Off the you told me not to say his name, so that it's a tough.
I don't know, Rob, you got any takes why Felipe's thinking of his response?
I mean, I think Sean Clifford is a solid answer because they're not gonna keep three quarterbacks.
Yep.
And I think
That's a
Michael
good one.
Pratt pretty much earned the job without having. Of course, he got into the game later, but I think as soon Clifford threw that interception and consequently broke all of Tom Clement's rules on being a quarterback, like he threw off his back foot, he didn't set his feet, so I think Pratt won the job while on the bench, and then later
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of someone else. I'll try to think as another guys as Rob.
I well, first off, I think they have quite the conundrum at kickers. Both the kickers. I think Greg Joseph is coming back down to earth. He missed bad last night. That was bad. I think a guy I've really liked, and I've been harping on the defense because that's the thing I'm most excited for this year. But I feel like Jonathan Ford has been getting some good push. I've been liking his play.
Mm-hmm.
He even had a couple ones I thought last night that he really he almost got that running back in the backfield. I thought that was him. Been really liking him. I don't know if he'll make it. He's got quite the he could probably would be practice squad. That's most likely the best case scenario for him. But I thought he's had a hell of a preseason and a showdown in the first.
My thing with Greg Joseph, and I was saying this since the beginning. Anders Carlson's going to make the team, no matter what happened. Unless like Joseph went like 60 for 60 and Carlson went like terrible. But the Packers spent a draft pick on Carlson. They're not gonna give up on him like after 1 year. And I mean, Carlson had a higher field goal percentage than Mason Crosby in his rookie year. Of course, Crosby was never an elite kicker like the best in the league, was he? But he was a pretty reliable kicker for a number of years. So
Still the Packers' all-time leading scorer.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to love Mason Crosby. I mean, he won a lot of big games for us. He only had a few bad moments. And then, in the end, age got the best of him just like everybody else did. And, got the, father time always wins.
Yeah, so
But,
to me, it was always going to be Carlson because simple for the logic that they spent a draft pick on him. If he wasn't an undrafted free agent, then it's another.
Yeah, and we talked about Travis Glover, and I noticed that too, and that's tough. And he hasn't been extremely healthy this camp. He hasn't gotten a lot of opportunities, but I do think that, as you stated, Felipe, Goody and LaFleur, they like to keep their draft picks on the 53, and maybe he makes it because some of these vets they don't feel as good about, and they just want to protect him. But based on what was put on film last night, I think they could probably easily think about getting Travis Glover on the practice squad. He's going to have to play, and he's going to have to play a lot better than that to make a spot on the 53. So that would be my flyer on a guy that we haven't talked about a lot on this show so far. So kind of, a couple other notes I'll just put out there. I thought Tyron Hopper looked pretty good. He had some issues in coverage. I think there was a blown coverage between him and a pass off went to Kevin King that ended up being a touchdown, I think. At that point in time, it looked like it was like a cover 2 situation, but I was overall pretty impressed with Tyron Hopper's first looks as a professional. I'm not sure what to think about the Stenovich play calling experience. It might have been very calculated, experiment to try to see what's available on the offensive line. But, it was a lot of running and a lot of not putting the quarterbacks in a position to be successful. And yeah, I think my other big takeaway from the game was I think it was a big opportunity for Lucas Van Ness, Carl Brooks, and Colby Wooden to get some really good reps and some tape against ones from another team. And why they all had like a play or so, I think they missed a big opportunity to kind of show out and be some of the players that we expect them to be from a rotational perspective. So,
I mean, Van Ness had a good showing against. I don't have the stats in front of me right now. I expect good things for him, and a guy that I remember, Brandon Cox Jr. I think he's like tied for first in pressures in the preseason. It's quite often in the backfield. I think he makes the roster. He was in the practice squad last year. Was having a nice preseason, had a nice camp. I'll be surprised if he doesn't make it. He was I think one of the top 5 highest graded Packers last night. It's not open.
That doesn't surprise me. I think he had a sack in the second half. He definitely had some pressures, and he's got a very
Yeah.
interesting story. He kind of got kicked around a few programs. Is a very highly touted, like 5-star prospect, I think, and ended up at Florida, I think, after getting kicked out of or separated from another program, and that's ultimately why he didn't get drafted last year. But a guy who has a ton of talent, and I could see him, finding a place on this roster. I think Rob and I have him on our current 53-man projection. So
Yep.
And yeah, and I mean the Jeff Heffley needs to find a way to get Xavier McKinney, Javon Bullard, and Evan Williams on the field together. Like, and not to hate on our pass safety room, but going from Darnell Savage, Jonathan Owens, and Rudy Ford, who was actually nice last year. Going from those guys to this new safety room will do wonders for the team. And I mean, Heffley made Jeff Okuda, who has been like an average corner at best in the NFL. He made him a top 3 pick in the draft.
Yeah, from Ohio State. Yep.
So imagine what he can do with Jair Alexander and Xavier McKinney and hopefully Eric Stokes, who's coming back from back-to-back seasons with injury. Even Kaden King, who was expected to be a first-round pick but had a terrible 2023. So let's see. I'm very excited for the safety room, especially
me
Evan
too.
Williams. I love Evan Williams.
I slept on Williams big time. I thought that was a big stretch for us, but I mean, the play is definitely showing that the Packers went up, traded up to pick him for a reason. And like you said, we got to get him on the field. I think Hafley's secondary coaching experience is really paying some dividends with the talent that he's got laid out in front of him.
Dude, I love the Jeff Okuda for you too. Guess who else was on that team when he was there for that 1 year? Chase Young, right?
Yeah.
The defensive end, right? And he was, when did he go that pick this year? And he came in and he slowly dwindled down, but he was
Mm-hmm.
So as we move on to the most exciting season opener for us, Packers at Eagles, baby, let's go. What are some key players, key storylines that you're looking at as far as that goes down there? How do you think the Packers will handle the Eagles, maybe both on offense and defense? Obviously, you got Hurts, Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown. Defense, they had a couple of really good picks and have a really good defensive line. What are some key things you're looking at as far as this game goes? And overall, what's the hype down?
I am most concerned about Saquon Barkley versus our linebacker corps. And it's not a good matchup.
Yeah.
Last time we saw Saquon, he went over 100 yards in London against us.
Yep.
And that's one of I'm most concerned, have been with the Packers over the last few years. I'm most concerned about the run defense and the pass defense. I know AJ Brown and Devontae Smith are elite weapons, but we have Jair, we now have Zaire McKinney, Eric Stokes returning. I think we're going to be fine. It's going to be difficult, but we're going to mostly be fine. But I think the key matchup will be in the defense. It will be Saquon versus the linebackers. And I'm concerned because we don't know what's going on with Adrian Cooper. I'm still holding my hopes for Quay Walker, who's going to play as the Mike now. And the defensive line is going to need pressure and attack the gaps, because they don't, Hurts will kill you with the scramble. He had 200 rushing yards on us in 2022 or something like that.
Yeah, it was a lot. Yep.
That duo, Hurts and Barkley through the ground, scares me. But I'm gonna trust Jeff Heffley, because I feel like tackling yesterday was not the case. but
No.
tackling has been better. At least against Cleveland was on point. Yesterday was not the case. So better than happens now than on September 6th because I'll be miserable if and on the offensive side of the ball, we gotta attack the secondary. The Eagles secondary is not good. It's
No.
not good. We have Reed, we have Dobbs, Wicks, Watts, a healthy Watson, hopefully. I think scoring points will not be the problem. We have Josh Jacobs. The pass protection for offensive line is generally good. Was good last year. So we'll see. About the expectation, people, myself included, we are counting down the days.
Yeah.
I'm trying to separate what I'm going to take. Although it's going to be like for me personally, it's going to be a 2-day trip. We'll have the gathering on Thursday. We'll watch Ravens and Chiefs, and then the game. I don't think we should fully expect a full pro Packers crowd because there's going to be a lot of neutral fans from all 32 teams. But that this will certainly not be an Eagles home game. That will not happen. I can guarantee. I wouldn't be surprised if because I know people who are going to watch the game that are going to root for the Packers. I have a friend who's a Ravens fan. He's going to root for the Packers. Another who is a 49ers fan is going to root for the Packers. And I still don't believe it.
What?
He says he will. He doesn't like the Eagles because of the 2022 NFC Championship.
Oh, sure.
The city will be packed. Like people from Argentina, Uruguay, United States, all coming. I'll believe it that this will actually happen when I inside the stadium and I'll see the goalpost. And
Yeah.
I've been thinking about this because I have never watched a football game live, never. So I've been thinking to myself if I'm gonna get like tricked with play action or stuff like that, like things I usually have a good going watching from TV. But I know as I see the green and gold running out of the tunnel,
You're gonna
I'll
get
make
chills, man, just like shivers, and it's gonna be like you're gonna get that there then, and then when you come to Lambeau for your first game, you're gonna get it too. And
yeah.
if you come to Lambeau, we got to try to coordinate it because I'd love to take you and give you the full experience. But
Oh yeah.
if you're ever in Lambeau on like a flyover day when they play Danger Zone and they've got the jets that fly over right over the top and the energy is just peaking right before kickoff and then it's just a vibe that you cannot match or beat. So we got to get you there, Felipe, and I'm excited that you go get to see that in real life. So
Yeah, I don't think I'm sure you guys have noticed, but even as I try to describe the excitement for the game here, I have a hard time because I think I only know when I'm inside the stadium, and still, who knows what's going to happen from there. But like I said, I'm counting down the days, and I can't wait. I can't wait. I can't.
Yeah, it's an experience you can't really explain until you go see one, right? And I know you'll be in Brazil for that one too, but even still with that, that's going to be amazing. And then the day comes when you get to go in the Lambo. It's I'll never forget it, ever. And every single time I get that same feeling too. So it's something special that you'll never forget. So we're going to put you on the spot here, Felipe. We're going to ride or die by your prediction here on this one. Well, official prediction, who do you think wins? Take your Packers hat off, and you're biased for the Packers like we all are. Do you think that they come out flat and maybe the Eagles chip one on us with all the travel? Or do you think the Packers can eat away at that?
I mean, the travel is equal for both teams.
It's true.
So
Yep.
I wouldn't read too much into that, but like I said, I think scoring points for the Packers is not going to be a problem. I don't like the Eagles defense, but if we can control Saquon through the ground, we're definitely gonna win. Because Jalen, and I've been saying this about when he had everything perfect around him. In 2022, he was great, led the team to the Super Bowl, was an MVP finalist. Good, awesome. Now, when there's one little thing out of place, you can see that his production's not the same. 2021,
Yeah.
he wasn't great or even good. The end of 2023, he was abysmal. They lost. I was gonna say that they lost to the Giants, but we lost too. But the way that they lost it with the division on the line and everything, it was bad. So I think with Hurts is that when there's a little thing out of place, he is not the same guy. And you can say that about most quarterbacks, but for me, it's like it's quite obvious. So if we stop Saquon, we I think we're definitely gonna win this. But I think it's going to be a close game. I better hope the Packers win because otherwise I'll be happy with the experience. Like I'm not gonna lie, regardless of what happens. But if they lose, I'll be sad the next day. Uh, so
So, Rob, what do you think? You got a prediction? You got a final score prediction? What are your thoughts?
I'm gonna say what was I don't know if you guys are gonna remember this, but what was the score that the Packers beat the Eagles in 2010 in week 1? I'm trying to remember. I know the Packers
We're
won.
gonna test my memory, huh?
Yeah.
I know the Packers won, but I'm gonna say they beat the Eagles by the exact same score, so we can go into the whole. Oh, remember when the Packers faced in Week 1 in 2010, and it was the same score where we need a Super. So we get into
It's
into
it's it's,
the
it's 27-20. I had to Google machine it
yeah.
to get the
I think
answer.
I think it's a realistic score, 27-20. I'm gonna roll with 27.
I like the vibes there. Channel 2010. What about you, Rob? Okay. Any anything else you want to throw into your prediction? Key matchup, somebody who's going to have a big game. Rob,
Oh, let's see. I'll give this one a good old Josh Jacobs game. Good old welcome to the Packers. I know the Eagles got a pretty decent defensive line. I just more specifically want to see him run the ball and run it effectively. I think that obviously that'll just help out Jordan Love with play action and beating that weak secondary from the Eagles. So I'm really, really excited to see that. But you guys all know, man, if you watch our channel, I'm all about the defense, baby. So give me all things defense. Let me just hammer them down. They can only score 7-10 points a game. Get a couple of picks to start out the year, maybe a forced fumble. I don't know. I'm just throwing things out of the bag. Probably not realistic, but I want to see a really good, competent.
I'm just gonna add that I will completely lose my mind if Carl Brooks has a great game because he was the first guy that I ever put a piece on. So it would be magical if he had the best game of his career in São Paulo.
love me some Carl Brooks. He's kind of a bat down master. Him and Kenny
He
Clark. I
is.
think he's learning from Kenny Clark, which that kind of feeds into my prediction. So a key matchup for me in this is I look at a huge piece that the Eagles lost in Jason Kelsey after his retirement. And I
Center
think Kenny
position.
Clark and Devontae Wyatt in the interior of our defensive line is going to have a very key, integral piece of winning this game. One, are they going to be able to stop Saquon? But can they apply pressure up the middle and then stop the infamous tush push as well? It's going to come in, to play at some point in time that game. And I think if TJ Slayton, uh, uh, Wyatt and Kenny Clark can have a big game, that's going to be a big key for us. So I'm going to have a big game from the interior defensive line. Our new secondary is going to show out, and you're going to see, so one of those guys is going to get a pick. It's going to be Xavier McKinney, maybe Evan Williams, Bullard. Somebody's going to have a game there. And I'm painting a picture, and Felipe, I'm kind of sour you went back for that prediction because it's very close to mine, which kind of it aligns where we're at. But I think a Packers 26-21 victory. We have 26 points because Anders Carlson misses an extra point in that game, which should have made it 27-21 at that point in time. No. I do think that comes back to haunt us early on, and then we get it right. But that's where I'm going with that. 26-21, Packers defeat the Eagles, and I like it.
You hear me?
Yep,
yeah.
Go ahead.
My bad. At least I'll be able to curse Anders Carlson in Portuguese because he will have no idea what I'm saying.
All right, Felipe. Well, take us home, Rob.
Yeah. Felipe, thank you so much. As always, man, it's always just a blast to have you on. As we said this last time, we're going to say it again. We're going to need to have you on again, man. It's been awesome. Really appreciate you to be able to do this and take the time out. Just means the world to us. So as far as your stuff goes and the places you write for, where can people work?
So first, I will 100% be back. So we're going to schedule that. It's up to you guys. And at the moment, I'm writing for Cheesehead TV's on coverage, Packers Talk, and people can find all the info on my Twitter /X/whatever you want to call it, which is Aceti_Felipe. And then there's all the links for people who want to find my work. And we're going to probably keep expanding, but I'll leave that for the future. I'm working on something inside zone coverage. So.
Can't wait to see it or hear it or whatever it is. So we'll be ready.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on, everyone, and listening to us. Until next time, go Pack Go.
All right. Thanks again to Felipe Reis Aceti for joining the show. We're certainly lucky to call him a friend, and I learn a lot from him every time we get a chance to talk. So definitely looking forward to having him on the show again in the future, and to hear about his experience with his first NFL game in Brazil. So closing notes, we got joint practices again coming up this week against the Ravens. Hopefully we can show up to those and show up to our preseason game. We are now about 18 days away as we record this episode from that opener in Brazil, about 15 from the time you open this recording. So again, leading up into the season, we'll be back with a roster reveal, reaction show, and get ready for some things leading into week one. So thank you to our new subscribers. As always, we had one public profile, 88 Packer. So thank you, 88 Packer, for being a new subscriber. But as always, we have more great content every Thursday. So thank you for listening. Share with your friends, share with your family and other Packers fans. If you're watching on YouTube, please make sure to hit that subscribe button, comment, let us know what you think. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure to follow us, and you can connect with us on X at Robert79 or connect with me at Olson George. So until next time, Packers Nation, have a Gouda morning, a Gouda afternoon, and a Gouda night. Go Pack Go.
Go Pack Go.
Been wanted this shit forever. I've been in the field with whatever they throw at me. Brush it off, pick myself up, moving on to the better. Okay.